Welcome to the Value Proposition by the Fitness Business Podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Pellegrino. The Value Proposition is a monthly show on the Fitness Business Podcast created specifically for industry suppliers to showcase the value that they bring to health club owners and operators beyond their product or service. For our March 2022 show, which is also our 20th Value Proposition episode, we'll be talking with Dirk Bartlett, VP of Business Development for Sneeze.It. Dirk is going to walk us through his marketing concept, simple numbers, and help you understand when it comes to spending your marketing dollars well, we need to think less about cost per lead and more about cost per acquisition. Dirk, welcome to the Value Proposition.
Thank you for having me, Sarah.
Of course, it's an honor, sir. I would love for you to jump right in and tell our FBP family about who Sneeze.It is as a company and what you and your team can help health club owners and operators accomplish.
Absolutely. So really what I like to always start off with is really we're a social media marketing organization that focuses on generating revenue for its clients. And it's a very key acknowledgement because most marketing agency and most folks really reference their marketing agency as lead generating. And while that's certainly one of our very critical tools to accomplish it, at the end of the day, we define ourselves and measure ourselves as we expect our clients to measure us is based on the revenue that we're generating. Now, the platforms that we operate within are your traditional, your social media, different platforms and all the different areas in which social media that you can operate. You're talking about your PPC and being your key marketing areas. But then we go into also further supporting that to drive the revenue through email designs, a voice messaging system, website support, design creation, all the way through to SEO, chatbot. We really look at the full pathway that someone's going to be taking. So we're really starting from that journey that we're going to take that person to a point where they become revenue in our client's pocket.
Well, I love the focus on revenue generation, right? I think where people can get very hung up with marketing is we want the leads, you want the leads. Okay, yeah, you want the leads, but you want to make money from those leads, right?
Yes.
That's great. Now, Dirk, tell us about this concept, simple numbers. What does it mean and what does it help us achieve?
Yeah, really. So when we talk about simple numbers, is most people are familiar with looking at all these different pieces from impressions and clicks and CPC and all these different numbers that we don't really know what it is telling us, and it's highly influential. So we can do very simple things to change those numbers, but did it really change a result? So simple numbers is really about quieting the noise of all those different numbers and getting down to really the meat and potatoes of what makes it all happen, which is what amount of marketing dollar does it take to generate a conversion, a new member in your facility? And that's really about what we talk about when we talk about bringing it down to simple numbers.
I love it. Easy enough, right? Simple enough.
Simple. I'm all about simple.
Yeah. Now, when it comes to marketing budgets, how should clubs figure out how much money they should allocate on a monthly basis?
Yeah, really, this is really what it kind of the whole concept is based on. And this is what we measure it on is what we call the CPA, which is cost per acquisition. And what we really want to do is get the operator to really think like a big business. And while most of us in the fitness industry really operate from more of a smaller business mentality, we want to be thinking like, how does the big business operate? And we look out there and we see these big businesses and they're on their commercials and they're everywhere. I mean, they're at the Super Bowl and we go, gosh, someday I would love to be big enough I could be in that kind of space. Well, you can't get to that space unless you start acting like you're in that space. I understand we can't have a Super Bowl commercial. I get it. But what we can do is start looking at how are these big businesses evaluating their market expenditure. Are they doing it as a percentage of their revenue, or are they doing it based on an acquisition? What is my marketing dollar equate to in return? And so that's really what we're talking about. And that's really where we want to get people looking at.
I love it. I love that whole new model. It's a completely different way of thinking, right? For some, you and I have chatted, for quite some time, marketing teams have always liked to know, what it costs to generate a lead, not really the acquisition piece. So walk us through a little bit why that thinking about what it costs to generate a lead. Why is that an outdated way of thinking?
I hesitate to call it outdated because we still are going to be paying attention to the CPL, which is cost per lead. It isn't that we ignore what it's telling us. It's just that the best way I can describe it here is the CPL and the CPA, where we define these two different areas. If let's just say the CPL is higher than you want to do, so we are, what that simply means is it's costing us more to generate that name. But at the end of the day, our CPA, that cost to generate an acquisition, has gone down. In other words, we're generating more joins. Are you disappointed? And vice versa, if we're focusing our energy and driving that CPL number down, so we're getting a lot of leads, but the CPA, the cost per acquisition, has now risen, which means we're not converting as much. Are we happy because we've got a low CPL? And so that's where it's flawed, is that you have to be looking at it more as a tool on how we continue to manage driving the CPA down. So as we start to establish where our ideal CPA number should be, and by the way, I meant to kind of go over that on the last piece there, the typical CPA number that organizations look at is 2 to 2.5 times their average monthly dues. That's kind of the starting point. Now, I'll have the opportunity to talk a little bit more about how we can fluctuate that, but just with that number in your mind, you're looking and saying, okay, I know what I'm willing to spend to generate that join. If you're managing strictly off the CPL, you're missing a big part of the picture. And you potentially are satisfying yourself and making yourself go, great, my marketing dollar is being spent well, when in reality, you're not actually generating a return on that investment. And that's kind of where the flaw begins.
I love it. So it's paying attention to both.
Correct.
And how they work together.
Yeah, you're using the CPL to manage how to improve your CPA.
Easy.
Yes.
Simple.
Yep. Simple.
That's great.
We'll just keep using that word.
Yeah, I'm throwing it in there. Now, in order to generate better leads, what information is best to request from potential members and buyers?
Another tricky question, and because the reality is the more you ask of your potential buyer, the better the lead is going to theoretically be. In return, also your cost is going to go up because you're now narrowing the scope of people that is now being presented to, because the more you ask, the less people are willing to give up that information. And so in turn, it costs more to go after those people. Your audience shrinks down, so you're now getting to less people. And so it really comes down to an operator making a determination, what is truly most important to them? Is it the volume or is it the value? And there's a balance there. And I can't sit here and tell you today that everybody's volume value balance is the same. You will have operators who will feel, hey, as long as you get me the leads, I'll eventually get them to the door. And then you have other people who say, listen, I want to make sure I want the best possible lead I can get in. And then that ensures me a greater opportunity to get them, but I understand I'm going to get less of them.
So it's a game of give and take.
It's a game of give and take, and it's really making a determination on what's most important to you. Now, again, what we're here to talk about is that simple number, and that's where we're going to circle back and really talk about the CPA. And that's, as I said before, you're going to be managing that CPL number from your CPA position. So as an owner-operator, which I assume the majority of your listeners are, they're going to really say, hey, listen, I give you $1. What am I getting back for that $1, right? And so if I start there, then I can say, okay, I'm giving you $1 and you're giving me $2 back, but Dirk, what can I do to give you $1 and you give me $3 back? And then that's when we start diving into what we're doing to get that $2 return. And we look at things like the CPL and the value return on a lead, and we start to bring that in. So example being is you may have your CPL is $100. Let's get crazy. I'm sure every listener just cringed, but but at $100. But I sit there and your CPA is $25. So it's only costing you $25 to get a join. You're going to go, well, wait a minute, how is that even possible? Well, the key thing here is that we're generating the highest quality of leads from a CPL standpoint, but it also means that our marketing is creating an exposure which is driving more people to your front door, resulting in a higher join rate. It doesn't mean that everything that we send out there is meant to generate a name and number and get that customer to give their anonymity up so that you can now follow up with them.
So on that point, Dirk, is there a sweet spot? And I realize every club is different, but is there a sweet spot where if you want really quality leads, right? We want the acquisition, we want more to join. Do you look for a higher cost per lead and a lower cost per acquisition, or is it flipped? What is that sweet spot? Is there one?
I'm going to have to lean on the fact that it really comes down to the operator and what they determine is important to them. It also plays a part in how they have their sales program in their facilities set up. Can they support a higher volume of leads? Do they have infrastructure within their CRM, their lead management software, to continuously go after other leads? Do they have staff? Sometimes we see a growing movement where clubs are operating without a sales team at all. And so in that situation, you're probably going to be more willing to get a higher CPL to get that higher quality lead. So you have a higher conversion rate without having to manage the leads versus having a full sales team where you say, hey, look, pump me up. I want as many leads as I can get, good or bad. I'll let my team filter through and figure that out.
That's a great example. That's awesome. Now walk us through your attribution model and how that helps club owners make better decisions when determining marketing campaigns.
Well, first is to understand what is attribution model. So the attribution model, as the definition states, is framework for analyzing which touch points or marketing channels receives credit for a conversion. So what that simply means is you as your operator, what are you giving credit for that person that's now just joined your facility? So explain. So a person is going to get multiple marketing touch points, generally speaking. You get the rare situation. I see it, I acted on it, and I'm a member. So they only had one touch point. But generally speaking, we can say that there's going to be multiples of marketing touch points before they actually act on it. So if I give the analogy, someone saw an OTT ad on their streaming platform. And then, so they acted on that and you captured them as a lead. And so now they're in your CRM as having come from this OTT ad. But then they saw your Facebook ad and then they received an email and then you pushed out a voicemail messaging. And yet all these things are there, it's planting that seed. They're thinking about it. It's that reminder. Yes, yes, yes. Then they were on their phone and they saw Waze and they saw a Waze ad of your facility. And then they drove by and saw the sign and went, there you are. I don't know why I feel it, but I know I've been wanting to join a gym, and I keep having this voice in my head that tells me XYZ club is the place for me. And I pull in and I walk in and I join. What part of that marketing trail made me actually act on the join? So when we talk about the attribution model, there's a multitude of ways or multitude of attribution models. There's where you give credit to the first point, which is most common within the fitness industry because it's dictated by the CRM. So wherever we caught them first into the CRM is usually going to maintain the credit. We're seeing some new CRMs that are now being able to show a track record of what different touches they've had throughout their lifespan, which is great, but still, generally speaking. Then there's where it's the first touch, we give credit and we give credit to the last touch. So my analogy would be the OTT and sign. Get equal credit for having gotten that person to join. Then there is the last one. So in that case, it would be the sign. We're not going to give anything credit to anything else. We're just going to give credit to the fact that the sign actually got them in the club. And then there's linear. Now, linear is we're going to take all those touch points and we're going to give equal credit. They all played an equal part in getting that person to walk into the gym and join. And then the last one is decay. And decay is we give credit based on length of time since last touch. So the sign gets the majority of the credit, the OTT ad got the least amount of credit, and all the things in between got a little bit more credit till we get to that. So those are so once you determine where you measure yourself, what is your attribution model, then that allows us to start operating on that or get you to change your view on where it should be. The most common and suggested one is a linear.
Is this something that if you are partners with a club and an owner, that you walk through the attribution model for their specific business? I'm assuming that's part of it.
Yes. So we want to work with them to determine where their attribution model, because most owners haven't even taken it into consideration.
Yeah.
And again, they're usually being driven from their CRM. Their CRM is dictating to them what their attribution model. Example being is I got these 5 different areas that I've got leads coming in, and let's just use the direct mailer. You put out a direct mailer and you get a bunch of joins off the direct mailer based on where they're logged in as having seen. And so you go, my gosh, direct mailers, the magic wand. I should be doing direct mailers. So the next month, what do? You make 2 things either happen. Either you add more money towards direct mailer marketing, or you move budget from other marketing areas over to your direct mailer to put out more direct mailers in that month. And then suddenly you get a different result. And you go, well, wait a minute, it doesn't make sense. I mean, everything said, the math told me I should have gotten X percentage of conversion. And the reality is because there's all these other touch points. And so in the end, was it really the direct mailer that is the secret weapon that gets the person joined? Or was it all the things in between that led to them act on the direct mailer?
I can see how it'd be very easy to say, we just sent a mailer, we got 20 leads, all 20 came from that mailer.
Right. And so let's pump more money into direct mailer, right?
I can see it.
And then suddenly you get a different result.
Okay, I love it.
And again, now you start to see where the noise is, where all these numbers, and that's not simple. How do I manage my marketing if all these things are going on? Yeah. And that's really where we start to get into the simple numbers.
Love it. Well, now let's look at the marketing funnel. So what can we learn from this concept, and what are the 4 components?
Well, the first component is the awareness. So that's going to be your top of the funnel. And your awareness is really identifying perception, which is the new impression, to recognition, which is repeat impressions, familiarity to it, which is frequent impressions, and knowledge, which is that ongoing impression, just hitting people. Now, where we're going to be doing this is we define it as traffic ads, and this is going to have the highest exposure. So you're going to get the most volume out of your aware. More people are going to see this than any other marketing approach you're going to take, but they're going to have the lowest value because you can't draw that straight line. It's not something that is going to have people walk in and join. Well, I shouldn't say that. It very well could, but from a value standpoint, and what I mean by that is more measurable, is going to be your lowest. The next piece is leads. Obviously, this is a very big one that everyone does focus on. This is going to be about a medium volume. It's going to be reduced because we're asking for people to give up information, and the value is going to be higher. So we're going to put it at medium. And then we have purchase. Obviously, that's the highest value to you as an operator, but it's going to have the lowest number of people that are going to be willing to purchase through marketing. And so your volume is going to be at the lowest, but your value is the highest. And then we have a little bit of extension to that piece, which is repeat purchases. And repeat purchases are former member approaches, renewals, and even internal ancillary revenue opportunities that you can do for marketing on, where you're getting more revenue from a active client, which is repeat business.
You and I know a thing or two about ancillary revenue, huh?
Indeed.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you for explaining that. It's so important, and a concept that I have grown to love in the marketing world, and a huge basis for the value proposition is awareness marketing. Yes. So take it back in our fitness industry, right? There's a club here, there's a club right down the road, there's a bigger club, there's a boutique, right? Like fitness it's loud. There's a lot of competition in these markets. So explain why brand awareness is so important in today's market.
Okay. So Sarah, if we look at it this way, what we just described is the funnel. And so I'm going to take that funnel, I'm going to turn it into something else. I'm going to turn it into a fishing net. And being from grown up in Gloucester, Massachusetts, I know a thing about the fishing industry, and so you have the draggers, and they have this giant net they drag behind the boat, and it's this big, wide net that funnels down to a tube. And at the end of the tube is what they pull up on the boat and dump all the fish out on. Okay, so if anything, you all walked away with a knowledge of how to do deep sea fishing on a commercial level. But from what to answer your question is that big net. So you got this, the wider the net. So the boat that's got the widest net is obviously going to catch the most fish. So when you talk about awareness, awareness is at the top of the funnel. It's the width of the net. So where we in the fitness industry, where I lead into why we also don't want to manage strictly from the CPL, is we tend to cut the top of the net off and we go right down to the lead section, right? So we just shrunk our net hole up a ton. So it's obviously going to reduce the amount of exposure and capture we're going to be able to get. And so why is awareness important? Because awareness marketing increases our exposure to drive more lead opportunity, which in turn drives more joins and so forth. So if you think about some of the biggest groups in the fitness industry, we'll just say the Purple Monster in particular, they're everywhere. And so you can walk up to your grandmother who's probably maybe never stepped in a gym in her life, and you say Planet Fitness, she's going to go, oh, I know them, right? How is that? Because at the end of the day, most don't buy from a brand they're not familiar with. And so they may not know why that sign is making them act, that ad is making them act, that billboard, whatever it may be. But the more noise you make in your space is going to create a greater likelihood that your other marketing efforts, your salespeople, your signage, your word of mouth, your organic marketing that you're doing on your Facebook, Instagram posting is going to have a greater impact. And so the challenge is as gym industry operators, we tend to be operating on smaller budgets. And so we look at that budget and we say, well, geez, I can't afford to put as much towards that part of it. And again, this is why managing from the CPA becomes much more critical, because the thought process that we can't afford it is coming from the fact that if I put too much towards awareness, I reduce my amount of money that I'm putting towards lead generation, and that's what it's all about. It's not. It's about capturing as many people as we possibly can. And the best way we can measure if we're doing that is by measuring our CPA.
So good. Okay, I love the analogy. That's great. That's a good one.
The Midwest folks are going, I don't know what you're talking about.
Never been fishing in my life.
Right. Yeah.
Now, Dirk, we talked about this a little bit already, but is there a big secret to help club owners determine which marketing campaign worked better than others?
There isn't. I mean,
besides partnering with you to help drill them down.
Yeah. So this is where we get you as an operator looking at the CPA and going, okay, can I justify adding more expenditure in there? Because again, if you set let's just use a math number. If your CPA number is $50, you're saying, I'm willing to spend $50 to generate a join, and we have your CPA at 25, then you already automatically know that there's built-in space for you to say, I can increase my marketing expenditure without it exceeding what I consider too much to spend for a member. So your goal is to actually increase your marketing expenditure until you hit that CPA number. That's kind of okay, that's it. I've maxed out what I want to do. So example being, I have a client, 3 locations, and when he first came on board, he was more traditional ad spend allowances, $1,000 to $2,000 as a location. Today, 3 locations. Each location I'm operating on approximately $15,000. I know most of your listeners just passed out. They just went, no, you got to be crazy. But the reality to how he came to that place, because he would have thought that was crazy when we first came on board with him. But the reality is, as time progresses, he started operating from the CPA, he realized that's simply a determination of, if I add more money into my marketing, I get X in return. So until that X is no longer justifiable, I keep doing it. And so to that point, to me, that's more of the secret than anything else. And then as you increase your expenditure, that then also opens up your opportunity to explore into other marketing spaces to generate more activity. For instance, he's gone into OTT, CTV. We're advertising on Waze now. A lot of places that a lot of traditional health clubs just going, I didn't even consider about those things. We're starting to explore into TikTok and spaces that have not generally been in the marketing space for fitness. And more spend, more ability to do that, as long as that more spend is justifiable in what you're getting back for it. And that's what today's about.
I love it. Last but not least, Dirk, explain the concept of the fast, eat the slow.
Yeah. So the fast is slow. We kind of came up with this as, from the concept that most people look at is the big eat the little. And the reality is that we must understand what worked yesterday, what works today may not work tomorrow. And so we got to constantly be vigilant on how the market space is changing, what areas are getting us the best results. And the quicker that we can respond to that, then the more efficient we become for our clients, meaning that we can take that smaller operator and have them compete against the bigger operator, or make a bigger operator be able to stay relevant and faster against their counterparts that are coming after them. So that's where we came up with the fast, eat the slow.
I'm going to throw another last but not least in.
Yes, please do.
We're all about educating here at the Fitness Business Podcast. So if you were a club owner and operator right now, March 2022, what is one recommendation you would give to yourself when it comes to marketing?
From a marketing standpoint, I'll preface my answer by saying that even as a marketing agency, we ourselves were victim to this CPL thinking. And so myself have been operating within this space, looking at this and focusing on that aspect and feeling the stresses of, are we there? And now we've seen things like the iOS 14, where that's the Apple removing the cookie component impact marketing, and these different variables that are happening within the social media space. And so we all panic. Well, we're seeing the CPL going up. Oh my God. And I would say that the thing I would definitely be looking at is that change of philosophy and reminding myself at the end of the day, I take this marketing dollar and I am doing this for one purpose, and that is to generate more business in my facility. And if I can measure that expenditure to the business I'm bringing in, then I can become more efficient on determining what is the appropriate spend. And I can continue to properly invest, where before your investment from a marketing standpoint into something as a CPL solely is that now I'm investing in something that actually doesn't equate to dollars. We hope it does. We hope to turn it into dollars. But at the point of measurement of its its effectiveness is not actual dollars. So my lesson to my gym owner self would be is keep everything simple, numbers on the focus of what's driving me revenue. And then once I'm in that space, depending on what that's telling me, now I'll open the book and start to look at the pages to determine how can I influence this in a more positive direction.
So good. I love it, Dirk. Thank you so much for your insights today. If our listeners want to reach out and learn more about what you and Sneeze.It can do for their business, where should I send them?
Well, of course, you can always go to our website, which, by the way, is getting updated right now. But you can also just email me directly, and that is my first name, Dirk, D-I-R-K, at Sneeze, S-N-E-E-Z-E, .it. No .com on the end of that, please. Just .it. That is actually the email. And then you can reach me at my phone number, which is 857-366-2727.
Handing out the digits.
Handing out the digits. Go for it. Why not?
I love
it. Everybody.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much to our FBP family for listening to the value proposition for simple numbers for social media marketing. Tune in Friday, April 22nd for our next value proposition episode. And to show we walk the talk at the Fitness Business Podcast, all resources and links for today's show can be found at fitnessbusinesspodcast.com, adding value to our FBP family. Until next month, what you leave behind is not what is engraved in stone monuments, but what is woven into the lives of others. See you next month, FBP family.